And it's time now for our international press review. For that, Solange Mougin joins me in the studio. Hi, Solange.
Hi, Hexie.
You're starting off with a surprise vow yesterday by Beijing, also Washington, to work together to combat global warming.
Yeah, the China Daily, the Beijing-backed paper, is rather gaga about this unbinding, and I should add rather vague, pledge to work together. The paper says it is a welcome news and a win-win cooperation. It will, the paper hopes, put China and the U.S.'s relationship, quote, back on the right track of sound and steady development, end quote, citing there President Xi Jinping. Now, there is more praise, too, coming from the Sydney Morning Herald. It says that the surprise announcement was akin to a Reagan-Gorbachev moment, one that legitimizes Biden's choice of appointing John Kerry as the global climate envoy. It shows as well, they say, extensive diplomatic negotiations behind the scenes and highlights Biden's attempt to isolate climate change from other issues the U.S. and China have together. Nonetheless, as we can see in the cartoon by Patrick Blower, China is still the fire-breathing dragon in the room with all of its coal burning. So more efforts, as Boris Johnson said yesterday, still need to be done to make the summit matter. One more heave, he says.
And of course, the summit does end tomorrow, the 12th and final day of the COP26 climate summit. A lot of papers wondering what's really been achieved.
Yeah, well, a first draft proposition of what was agreed upon and what needs to be done, well, it was released yesterday. And the scientific magazine New Scientist tells us that the draft urges nations to strengthen their pledges by next year. Now, whether there is a final agreement or not, as the New Yorker writes, there is a profound chasm between COP26 words and climate action. Young people and activists, their site says, are highly distrustful of government promises in Glasgow. And the site says there are a lot of valid reasons for such skepticism and bad faith. So the summit itself may have sort of a black cloud of smoke over its head. At least that is what the cartoonist Patrick Chapat takes. That's his take this week, as he wonders whether the COP26 is the opening curtain call for change or the closing one in hopes for real government action. You see the cartoon there.
OK, well, Solange, moving on to a different story now, and that is the escalating migrant crisis along the Polish border with Belarus.
Yeah, there is no food and it is cold. So cold. That is the headline today of the Catalan paper El Periódico. The Daily spoke to migrants who managed to cross the border into Poland. They said that the Belarus's border guards, they beat them, they broke their phones, they stole their money. Now, on the geopolitical front, Politico explains that the budding border crisis has quickly raced up the global agenda among European leaders as Belarus's president keeps sending thousands of migrants to the border with Poland in freezing cold temperatures where they are rebuffed and then are stranded. Now, the cold isn't stopping much either. Charter flights are bringing migrants into Belarus. They keep on coming, Le Monde tells us. Now, from Damascus alone, there are 6 full flights per week full of migrants. They're packed with them as they have visas from Alexander Lukashenko and his government, as Lukashenko wants to put pressure on Europe over sanctions. He is trying to do so, the paper says, to destabilize neighboring countries with migrant influxes. Now, while it may not necessarily be working in regard to sanctions, it has, the New York Times explains, put another migrant crisis at Europe's doorstep, one where borders and innocent people are being used as weapons, end quote.
OK, well, moving on now to some sports news here in France. A really extraordinary, shocking story making headlines here in France, but also around the world.
Yeah, and here in France, under the headline, Fear and Trembling, it refers to an old novel, the sports daily L'Équipe dives into the details of a violent assault of a Paris Saint-Germain women's football player. She was attacked by a group of men that took a metal bar specifically to her legs. Well, now a colleague of hers has been placed under arrest for possibly playing a role in the attack. This has led many papers to make a parallel with the Tonya Harding-Nancy Kerrigan drama drama in ice skating in the 1990s. Now, as for the London Times, they explain that investigators think that rivalry between the women is what created this attack, as the two players have the same position on the PSG team, and one is charged with involvement. The one who's charged with involvement, may have wanted to get ahead.
Looks extremely messy. We'll see where that one takes us. Well, finally from you, Solange, you found a couple of novelties about this year's Remembrance Day.
Yeah, as NPR tells us, for the first time in a century, Arlington National Cemetery has allowed visitors to walk on the tomb of the unknown soldier and lay flowers on it to mark the 100th anniversary of its inauguration. A special opening that officials say will not be happening again anytime soon, at least in our lifetimes, they said. Now, to the second Veterans Day tribute, it is a quirky one. The Leicestershire Mercury, I have a hard time saying that word, tells us that an anonymous woman is known in her town of Syston as the Knitting Banksy. And after tributes to the royal family and local sports teams, well, she has struck again. She discreetly put up a human-size knit soldier next to the town's War Memorial Clock Tower. And I have to agree with all of the praise that is coming towards her in regard to her prowess as a knitter. Pretty amazing.
Pretty evocative, also a little bit creepy.
Yeah, which is fitting for a Memorial Day.
Which is fitting. Yeah. Solange with a look through the day's international press. Thank you very much. That's all we have time for right now. More news coming up in just a few minutes' time. Do stay tuned.